If any of the listeners have got an idea of how we can punish Ronaldo,
Cristiano Ronaldo, can you stop wearing that thing, please?
Abtoner, I think it's called.
Because if you don't, I'm just going to say Messi's better than you.
Wow. You're listening to The Big Drill.
Hello everyone and welcome to The Big Drill. I'm Ghazi.
Hi, Ghazi.
Hello, Will. This is take 2 of this actually because Will completely forgot to press the record button on the video.
I'm an idiot.
I'm going to give him benefit of the doubt because he wasn't feeling too great.
Yeah,
when he woke up.
I'm under the weather, but I've managed to get myself out of bed to the dining room table.
It's a long journey.
Huge
Well
journey.
fought, Will.
Thank you.
But this time we are recording, and today's episode will be about
Fat shaming, and kind of like shaming as a bit of an entity, you know, not just fat shaming. We're going to talk about
shaming in general.
Yeah, some bits and bobs around that, just kind of like thoughts.
But the reason we chose fat shaming is because recently in the UK we had a Cancer Research UK advert.
We did, and it was controversial to say the least.
Find that now, actually. Yeah, keep going.
It was controversial, and it didn't sit well with a lot of people. There was split responses. I kind of like get why I understand why they want to do it. They want to obviously have a positive effect on obesity, in a sense whereby people are making better choices and, you know, getting themselves within like a weight that they want to be, really. But they didn't really go around and communicate it in a particularly positive way, in my opinion.
Okay, well, we've got the advert here on my phone, so I'm just going to read it out to you guys. Obesity is a cause of cancer too. Like smoking, obesity puts millions of adults at greater risk of cancer. We also have graffiti on this advert that says weight stigma causes shame, not health. Fat phobia. Anti-fat bias. So clearly, it has made some people upset. So the first question I was going to ask you is, fat shaming, how would you define that?
Well, as it happens, I've got the definition.
Oh, you're quick.
There it is. So, basically, shame is so definition. You know, to bring shame upon someone embarrassed, abashed, chastened, humble, put someone in their place, take down a peg or two, cut down to size, show up, make someone feel bad about themselves, make them feel down around a particular area. So, you know, pretty not really very nice thing to do, right?
So do you think this ad campaign intentionally did this?
I don't know if there was malice behind it.
Yeah.
I don't think that someone sat there and went, I'm going to say this because it's going to make people feel shit.
I wouldn't think that either.
I don't think they've done that.
Yeah.
Necessarily at all. I think it was more of lack of
empathy,
lack of knowledge around what they were writing could actually cause, or in fact maybe they were happy to take the risk. I don't know.
So that's an interesting thing. You think maybe they took a gamble.
Maybe someone sat around the table and went, well, I'm not sure how this is going to be taken, and they went, well, let's do it anyway. Let's risk it, because it's going to cause people to be talking about it, just like people did for a while, and people are still talking about now. The fat shaming consideration, just a few weeks ago, was in a This Morning or Morning TV, Piers Morgan.
I didn't see it. What happened?
Yeah, there was a few people that were on there discussing about how using the right facts, bringing the right facts forward, in fact can have a positive effect in changing someone's behaviours in order for them to reach, you know, fat loss goals, for example. Being communicated to in a certain way gets them to respond in a positive way.
Well, I guess then we have to ask is it justifiable to release an ad like that in the hopes of getting a certain amount of people to react positively towards it, but at the same time piss people off? Is that okay? Is the question, I guess.
I suppose if you're gonna have a positive effect on 5%, I'm just using these percentages as kind of rough, just plucking them out the air as a kind of like a hypothetical situation. Okay. If you're going to piss 5% off of whoever the campaign's aimed at, if you're gonna make 5% of them change their behaviours and have a positive effect, but you're going to piss 95% off and potentially make it worse for them, I'd say you need to rethink your campaign. You need to reword it.
So what percentage would it be okay then, would you say?
Well, you can't please everyone, can you?
No.
So, but in a sense where you're trying to have a positive effect on an issue that's in society that isn't getting any better, I think that you've got to be aiming for flipping that round the other way. Because
it's interesting when you say that you can't please everyone. You can't. You're going to have people getting angry over who knows what. And the issue I have, well, not really an issue, but my thinking towards it is as long as the research is not biased, as long as it's telling factual data and it's true, you have to share that. Whether it's going to annoy people or not, whether it's going to make people feel worse, you can't hide what is true. I wouldn't want that. I wouldn't want...
You say you can't hide what is true. There's an awful lot of truth that's hidden by an awful lot of people.
So, okay, let me rephrase. You shouldn't hide the truth. Whether it's gonna... It's the classic...
what happens if you can't handle the truth?
You better start learning how to.
Have you seen that film? You've not seen that film?
I have. But I was going to give a genuine response.
Please do.
You've got to get to a stage where... Okay, think of it this way. I'm going to bring up freedom of speech. I'm a believer of freedom of speech. Because I am a believer of freedom of speech... Were you going to say something there?
So am I.
Okay. So we're both...
believers
of freedom of speech. If you believe in the freedom of speech, you also have to be tolerable to getting offended. There's no way around that. So think about that, because if you want to believe that you can say whatever you want or whatever you think, that means someone else can do the same. And you must be prepared that they're going to say something that you don't like. So when we bring in the truth, it's a different story when someone's completely lying about something. But when it's the truth, whether if obesity is the second causing, I haven't actually looked at all the data, but let's say it's true.
There are certain cancers that are prevalent with those people that have had or been obese.
Then I'm sorry, maybe it can be delivered better. That I can go, okay, yeah, let's talk about how we can deliver this better to people, but it must be delivered.
Agreed. I think that to have a position where you are skirting around the issue is probably just making the situation worse. If you're not actually coming forward with the facts and you're not coming forward with the truth and the reality of the situation. The reality of the situation is that behaviours connected with obesity as a general kind of pool of behaviours put a huge amount of pressure on the NHS. Okay, but it's not just about that. It's about like the kind of ongoing exponential amount of obesity that's rising in the youth as well. You know, it's coming up, and the trend is an upward trend. And that's where the more you don't pay any attention to the actual facts and figures, then you're in murky waters, because really you're not dealing with the issue.
So that's where, for me, the issue is the biggest. When you're an adult, you can, if you want to remain obese, or if you're happy, or whatever it is, if you don't want to change, fine, completely up to you. But when it comes to the children and them being affected by it when they haven't got the opportunities to reach adulthood without ever experiencing a different way of life. So I've seen, no judgment, but parents always feeding children fast food, etc.
Yeah, I mean we could talk, and we could go into the reasons why.
Yeah.
That's an issue, like socio-economic difficulties. You know, two-job parent. You know, a parent that's got two jobs and stuff like that. There's a lot of things why children are sometimes at more risk becoming obese, because of different contributing factors. It's never just like one factor. But I think that the issue it has to come in at an education level, at ground roots, at grassroots, really, with regards to that kind of support. And I actually reworded the campaign slightly. It's on my Instagram.
Okay.
Let's hear this. I done it a while ago, but you know something that I changed the words. So initially, obesity contributes to cancer.
Okay.
Which it does. It's a contributing factor.
Yeah.
Obesity has health risks, and if you want to change, you can. We're here to support you and future generations. Visit www.cancerresearch.co.uk/obesity. Because actually, the campaign itself didn't really give anyone that much of direction of where to go. So it's all very well going, you're overweight, you're increasing chances of getting cancer. You know,
full stop.
Okay, right. You know, it's just like, just leave me hanging. Do you know?
There was no.
Oh, my main problem was the language. It wasn't empowering language.
Okay.
It wasn't about putting autonomy. It was basically being delivering the facts, cold hard facts, but with no real like follow up of, you know, giving that person a direction or in a supportive way.
I can agree with that. I think rewording, or maybe showing a bit more empathy within the campaign itself, would have been swallowed a lot better by people. And I think in future campaigns maybe they should. I
don't think there was malicious intent necessarily.
No.
I don't think the organisation is trying to make a inroads into the level of obesity that there is, you know, and they're doing what they can. And could it be better? Yeah, it could be better. Maybe the next campaign that's put out might take into consideration this and kind of optimise it so it isn't fat shaming, so it has facts but it is communicated in a more supportive and empowering way, in a sense whereby it doesn't leave someone hanging there with just a very tiny minuscule like address that person can go to, which is quite honestly unreadable as you're driving or cycling or even walking past, unless you stopped and properly read it. So.
I get that, and I probably agree with you there. But let's take it to, let's say we're not talking about ad campaigns, we're not talking about Cancer Research UK, we're talking about individuals going up to people and saying, mate, you're fat. When does that become fat shaming?
Really good question. And I think, like, I don't know, like, how would you feel if I came up to you and went, you're fat, you need to lose weight?
Depends who you were to me.
Right.
That's what I would say. So if you're as a close friend, if maybe a family member, which we're not, just to throw that, we're not related.
But we're not close friends. We're not friends.
We're close friends, but we're not You're not my brother or anything.
Brethren.
You're my brother from another mother. Let's leave it at that, okay? And then the way you delivered it would play a big part. So those two things would play a big part
Sure.
to how I received what you said.
Okay, so I'll give you an example of a client who went back to her family home and she was in conversation with her mum, and her mum said, you can't be happy with how you are at the moment, and she was referring to her weight. So at that point she was overweight, in the overweight category, and it kind of gave her a positive reaction. So her reaction was to see a little bit clearer, have it presented to her in such a way that within a week she'd emailed me, signed up personal training, and where are we now? She's under a year, she's lost over 3 stone.
So that had a positive effect.
It was her mother speaking to her.
It was an individual
speaking to an individual one-on-one who knew that individual, who was able to bring up the subject of weight and therefore then have that conversation, but in a very frank, very to the point.
Yeah, but it was
Factual,
someone close to her,
yeah.
Someone who had her best interests at heart. My question now is, so this person had the ability and was in a situation where they became unhappy with the way they
I would say that.
yet didn't do anything about it until the mother pointed it out. Why do you think that is? What makes it that people wait until that point before they go, well, I need to make a change?
I mean, I don't know. That's a very individual reason. Just the tipping point.
So I'm going to give you mine.
Yeah, go.
So I was roughly around 100 kilos. And to put that in perspective, I'm now 77 kilos. So I was in the overweight category,
right?
Quite clearly. And I had never been that way before university. So before university, I was always playing football. I was still eating fast food, but because of my levels of activity, I'd always stayed slim. So I got to uni, I stopped playing football, carried on eating bad. And as I was gaining weight, I was in denial about putting on weight. I was in my mind, I was in a state of mind where I would brush off any little indications that I might be putting on weight.
Okay.
There was a point actually in time where I jumped. I can't remember why I jumped, but I jumped and I felt...
Oh, I thought you meant you jumped up in weight. You actually physically...
No, I physically jumped up into the air and I felt what you can only describe as man boobs.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, that's very strange. I've never felt that before.
Right.
And even then, I still didn't make a change.
So what tipped it?
Someone coming up to me and saying, you look like you're putting on a lot of weight there. You should probably look into taking that off.
Right.
And
your response was what?
I will. But in a more like, I'm going to prove you wrong kind of way, which he was right.
So basically,
but I still wanted to prove him wrong,
so
even though he was right.
Yeah. You were basically wanted to be able to do what you need to do and then go, fuck you, mate, I'll slow it down.
Yeah.
So that response means that the conversation he had with you, or the comment he made, sparked up the competitor part of your personality.
Yeah, I would definitely say that. Yeah.
And the part of the personality that wants to rise to a challenge, the part of your brain, the adaptive part of your brain, in your prefrontal, you were like, right, how can I solve this problem? What's the best way I can solve this problem? You went along, and with your competitor streak burning, and
my spirit.
I'm stroking the
I had
hedgehog
Goku's
man.
spirit.
Goku's the hedgehog man's spirit. Basically, with that, you stepped up. You're in the right part of your brain to build a plan or to be creative and achieve a goal, right?
Yes.
And that worked for you.
Yes.
Which is brilliant. But
can I quickly just say?
Oh, please.
That even though that is what worked, you have to remember I was still in denial about it. So even before that point, when people were making hints, because they didn't want to be rude about it.
Right. Tiptoeing around you.
Tiptoeing around, sugarcoating. That made me feel awful. And I get it. I get it can make people feel awful.
Right.
So I've been there. I understand that. Yeah.
I think that it's definitely person dependent, and that's the problem that comes with, like, if you know that someone has poor health. Firstly, that's some just before we continue, I just need to make this point now that health and being overweight isn't necessarily an indication of poor health. Firstly and foremost, okay. So just need to make that point. But if someone comes up to you and makes a comment, assuming that you are in poor health because you're being overweight and suggest you lose weight,
that's clearly wrong.
They don't know you. They don't know anything about you.
Yeah.
And the problem is that instead of them addressing you in that way, and your personality might be, your personality might have been like one which, not a competitor. You might have been, you might have felt bad. You might have gone further into your shell. You might have had feelings of failure, and there is this point of like, unless you're in the knowledge of that person and you've built up enough, it's very dangerous ground you can be treading, because you could have a really negative effect. You could drive them further into feelings of inadequacy, low self-esteem, by commenting and making what they already physically know about themselves, and and shaming it.
Yeah.
I think that there's something called learned self-helplessness, where someone has tried to achieve something time and time again. You could have 100 people in the room, and you could say to them the way in which that person spoke to you, and you could get 5 people out of 100 to respond well, and therefore achieve fat loss and find themselves in a better position than they were 6 months ago.
Yeah.
But if the other 95 in the room have tried to do it time and time again, and you're making the point again, you're just, they've tried and failed with many different methods and attempts. Actually, then what you've done is you've just made them feel even worse, because you've just pointed out that they're still failing at something that they've been trying to do time and time again. And
that person doesn't know what they've been attempting to do or how hard they've been trying.
Yeah, you don't know how. Yeah. You don't know if it's the first, second, third, or the 500th
unless you're
time
a really close person to them.
Unless you see, if you think about it, like, what you see is only like the tip of an iceberg. What everyone's story, their life, and what resides around them, in their brain, everything like that is effectively the rest of the iceberg that's submerged beneath the sea. You only see the small amount of the story when you look at someone, and even when you have some conversations with someone, those some conversations you still only really get to know a certain amount.
So that's going to bring me to this question. For people who are intentionally fat shaming or thin shaming or whatever kind of shaming, should there be a punishment in place for individuals like that?
So this has come up before. So for me, I think that there has to be a certain amount of conscientious thought behind people speaking and communicating with other people.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that has to be the type of language that doesn't emotionally tear someone down. You wouldn't stand for someone being punched in the face.
Yeah.
So
unless it was in a controlled environment.
Of course.
Yeah.
Very controlled.
Yes.
Like a boxing ring.
Or a UFC match. That's fine.
That's fine. But you wouldn't stand for that. So if someone's like mentally punching you, why should you stand for that either?
So so my response is, it's very easy to tell if someone went and punched someone in the face.
Yes.
That's very it gets a bit grey when you're trying to prove it's self-defense, whatever.
Yeah.
But whatever. The grey area is, how do you prove that this person was intentionally punching you mentally?
Well,
rather than it being,
I think if it becomes documented, if it's words, I think people probably have to build themselves
like
up.
Online.
I mean, if it's spoken words.
Okay.
So spoken words, I'm being a dick to you. I'm taking a piss out of you. And then you're like, I don't want to stand for this.
Mm-hmm.
I guess there's this element of the words. You can't, from a freedom of speech point of view, stop me speaking my opinion. If my opinion is hurtful, then that is
that's the way it crumbles.
So then if you're in the situation where I'm then, say for example, trolling you.
Okay. You're good at that.
I am good at that. Just you. And if I'm doing that and it's continuous and it's documented and it's there's a portfolio of mental attack on someone, then there needs to be.
So what do you think that should be in place there? Does the victim need to learn how to deal with that? Do we need to...
It's emotional bullying.
Emotional bullying, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Do we need to...
And fat shaming can kind of like fall under that bracket of emotional bullying.
Do we need to maybe put a punishment where they can... So for example, in this country, if you make fun of someone's disability, that person can be sued by the victim. Are we reaching a point? Is that the direction we're headed, where we're going to have to include that kind of punishment for people who are being dicks, who never stop being a dick?
Yeah.
Is that what we're going to have to do to stop that?
Something has to be in place to try and re-educate someone that that's not the best way to go about in society. You can't. I mean, it's the same situation if someone was wearing, if someone was, so drinking alcohol, for example.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm not a big drinker.
Okay.
But I'll have a drink.
Yeah.
Yourself?
Don't drink at all.
Don't drink at all. So let's say, for example, we're out and you start picking up shame vibes from people because you're not drinking.
Yeah.
Is that acceptable?
That's happened multiple times, might I add.
Yeah.
Is that acceptable in my opinion?
Yeah.
Yes.
What, that you are being highlighted and made, and it being made obvious that you're not drinking?
Would I allow it? Would I say in society this should? I would say no.
Right. But for you personally?
Personally, it's... I mean, that's not the worst thing.
No, I know it's not the worst
that's
thing.
Weird. So, but again, it's going to depend. Like I said, it's going to depend if it's you or close friends having a little jab at me.
Yeah.
I'll probably laugh it off.
Yeah.
But if I've got people that I have no idea, strangers, making fun of me because I don't drink, first of all, I'd think, you're stupid, aren't you?
Yeah.
And depending on how aggressive they're being, I would probably retaliate in a similar fashion.
But what happens if you're the type of person...
So I wouldn't accept that from them.
But if you're not the type of person that wouldn't retaliate, and you're the type of person...
Then I would 100% be like, no.
But my point is that there are people that if they are being shamed or if they are being emotionally bullied, there are people that don't have the ability to go, to your point, react and go, well, actually, no, shut up.
Yeah.
So there has to be something in place that kind of safeguards them, in the sense whereby people that don't have the wherewithal to, or feel they can stand up for themselves in that sense, and they, otherwise you just end up with a very like overawing people in society putting other people down. So there needs to be some sort of safeguarding in place in order for that person not to
and
be.
That's difficult.
It is difficult. I mean, I'm not sitting here saying I've got the answers. I wish I had the answers.
Yeah. And you know what? It's going to sound really bad. I wouldn't put a safeguard in place, because I think it would lead to a very slippery slope. Because then you can start getting people who are lying about receiving certain abuse.
Yeah.
Because it's such a grey area. If someone made a passing comment that had no malice behind it, and the person received it as malice, is that whose fault is that?
Well, no, I think there needs to be there needs to be substantiated. It's like this is not in line with fact shaming, but it's like if you were in a flat and your neighbour played music, had a party one night, and it pissed you off. He's had a party, fine, it's done. But if he was having a party every night, then you'd have to obviously log it, or kind of like it's
a reoccurring.
This is a problem, especially if I'm not getting any sleep. Right?
Okay, I can there. Okay.
So do you see how like,
so if someone is continually doing it,
it's like if someone walked past another person, like in the school playground, for example.
Yeah.
Someone walks past.
Hard to punish children, but
someone walks past. Someone walks past someone in the school playground and goes, "Oh, make some comment about little Johnny."
Johnny again from Call of Duty.
It's the same Johnny from Call of Duty, saying, "Oh, you were shit on Call of Duty last night. Oh, I owned you. Oh, whatever. I don't know what kids say.
That's technically shaming.
Yeah. So you're crap. You're crap.
Yeah.
Call of Duty. Do you even practice playing a game? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever. Your mum must limit you to how much time you can spend on it.
Yeah, you have to go to bed at.
Yeah, you must
whatever time.
Whatever. Walks past, dishes shame to little Johnny, and little Johnny goes, yeah, whatever. Like flips the bird and just carries on playing football. And
decided to take it out on you on Call of Duty.
And he decided to take it out on me on Call of Duty. But then the next day, Timmy says the same thing to Johnny. And then Timmy says, I'm not saying that, I'm just using random names. I don't know.
You don't
Timmy.
know these children.
Johnny, I do know.
Johnny,
he haunts me.
Yeah.
But Timmy then says it again.
Oh, so it's the same person.
Same person.
Okay.
Says it. Johnny this time goes, yeah, all right. Timmy next day says it again. This time John's like, look, can you shut up?
Yeah.
Next time, do you see what I mean? So then if people, it's almost like you can tell someone once, or you can bring it up with someone once or whatever, and then if it's something that you do and it's off the cuff thing, then you, to your point, you can't. It becomes a very grey area. You can't substantiate it. But if it becomes substantiated, then it's a problem.
I can agree with that.
So that's from a safeguarding point of view. That's probably, you have to have that in place. But,
okay, so the next point is, we do know obesity contributes to cancer. And we know that there's a lot of people, not all of them, but there's a lot of people that do want to lose weight. For me, what we should focus on the most is dealing with not so much the ad campaigns. They could be better, but I wouldn't focus on that. But more so to do with certain role models, social media especially, because that's where the kids are really looking. They're not really looking at the ad campaigns. They don't really take much notice of it. But stuff like, I can't remember what it's called, but Ronaldo wears this stupid six-pack thing apparently gives you abs by just wearing it. So he's wearing this stupid thing that claims that that's how he got his abs. Not the fact that he has been an athlete since 16, 17 years old. It was this... birth. He was born an athlete. But not this device that you strap around your body. That's where we should be focusing on if we want to tackle obesity.
So, in essence, what you're saying there is shift the focus from the society, people within society that may be obese or overweight, shift the focus away from them and focus it more towards people, influencers that are providing products that don't work.
False information, yeah, because the lollipop suppressant, the one that's supposed to
hunger suppressant, Kardashian.
Yeah, supposed to.
One of the old.
What is that?
Kardashians.
Since when did not eating become a function in society? Like, I don't get it.
Yeah.
And this is where I think we need to put something in place where these role models become accountable for knowingly advertising things they shouldn't be, because they have so much followers and they're making so much money off it, and then they're kind of just turning their head to the people that follow them, that love them dearly, and laughing at them.
I think that Instagram is doing more about that now as just as an example, social media platform with like paid ad campaigns. You have to declare that you're being paid to advertise the particular product. I don't necessarily think that's enough. I think it highlights the fact that if you buy this person's going to be getting a kickback from it. So, which is just being truthful about that particular element, but still not being truthful about the actual what the product delivers. And there's this thing called researchers Pavlian and Herman basically have this concept called false hope syndrome. So it's where people buy into products, buy into services, mainly really products though, but this is where they're very cleverly marketed, or they prey on people's fears, insecurities, whatever it might be, and they buy this product in the sense where it will help them achieve a certain goal, or establish, a better outlook on whatever they're trying to, whatever area it is, and it falls flat. So in the fitness industry, for example, it would be like buying fat burners, or buying booty tea shit and all that crap.
Awful stuff, yeah.
This kind of like, I don't know if we can get done for slander on that, can we?
I don't know.
It's an opinion anyway, so
yeah,
fine. I don't believe these things work, and they don't work. And I think in a sense whereby you have a person that invests emotionally and financially into something that they believe is going to work, and then it doesn't, time and time and time again,
and not at the fault of their own. It's just the things that they're buying not supposed to work.
They're not being marketed in a very true and honest fashion.
Way, yeah. And this is where I think role models, or the people who are, so let's take Ronaldo for example with the six-pack thing. There should be some sort of legislation that allows him to get punished for falsely telling people that this thing would work.
Well, yeah, it's trading standards, isn't it? That's basically what you're saying, is there should be like harder, more stringent application of rules through trading standards that punish financially, and also by the removal of that person's ability to be able to promote the product.
Or, they do this in fighting sometimes in UFC. If you do something you shouldn't have, they have to go to schools and stuff and talk about why what they did shouldn't happen, try and educate.
Okay, yeah.
I think
That's actually a really interesting point.
Ronaldo goes, sorry guys, I fucked up. I'm sorry. Here's what is the truth.
I've never used this ab toner in my life.
I wore it just to take a picture and never wore it again.
Yeah.
For example.
But then that would be conflict of interest of the money that he's been paid by.
What if he doesn't do that? He's going to receive an even more severe punishment. So I think there should be. I don't know. I'm not no person that can create all of this stuff, but something along those lines where he goes, an apology.
If any of the listeners have got an idea of how we can punish Ronaldo,
Cristiano Ronaldo, can you stop wearing that thing, please?
ab toner, I think it's called.
Because if you don't, I'm just gonna say Messi's better than you.
Wow.
Just saying.
No, I agree, and I think that there needs to be almost like the shameful behaviours of the people which market products and such forth.
Yeah.
Like that. That's really, it's not it's horrendous. Some of these things.
They're being shameless about advertising these things or being the role model for them, while the people are now being shamed for it.
Yeah.
Come on, we gotta balance that out.
We need to reverse it.
Exactly.
We need to reverse
there
it.
we go.
I think that with regards to how we communicate as well is a huge thing with supporting people that want to make changes, or you can't be in a position whereby you are pointing out the facts, and going back to what we were saying earlier, you can't point out the facts and then not give that follow-up support, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest thing. Like, it's almost like with these with the marketing products and stuff, they go, yeah, take this and it'll sort you out.
Yeah.
And then there's no like follow-up support or anything like that. It's just like, just take this product. Well, it's kind of like in a similar sense where someone's going, oh, you're fat, you're more likely to get cancer.
Yeah.
And then not really kind of like following up with any real tangible advice and support around for the people that want to do that. It's kind of like it's almost like leaves a massive like drop off point, right? Walking along, and then all of a sudden, yeah, it's like, okay, well, what do I do now?
Yeah.
And I think that the way in which it's communicated needs to be, society. There's a lot of fear in society. There's a lot of kind of I guess people do feel stuck and not helped as much as they need to. And I think like by just pointing out something that might be glaringly obvious, but they're not actually helping them, it's not really going to do them any favours.
Yeah, I can agree with that. You've got to provide some sort of way out, I guess. If you're gonna bring forward
if they want it,
if they want a way
out,
yeah, you can't just go, obesity causes cancer, bye.
Yeah.
If you're gonna do that as a campaign, especially one that isn't trying to profit from money, it's theirs. The campaign is there to help people.
Yeah.
You've got to be going,
I think, go on.
Obesity causes cancer. If you want to change, just like you change your wording, here's what you can do.
Yeah. And I also think it's important to educate people around the fact that instead of there being a focus on the weight, as in you are overweight, you are obese, it should be more about the health indicators. So you should look at people.
100%.
You should drill deeper into their health indicators and go, okay, out of these 10 things, what which ones are a cause of concern for your health? And if like 7 or 8 out of 10, 7 out of 10 of them are an area of concern, they come up on either a amber or red as an area of concern.
Yeah.
And actually, some of those areas of concern could be positively affected and turned to green if that person was to attend to maybe losing some fat, losing some weight, in addition with other lifestyle changes.
Yeah.
Because I think that's also where it comes into play as well. It's like you can't just look at one thing. You have to look at the whole wheel of health, and weight is one of them. You know, there's other things, and obviously physical and mental things as well.
There's just loads of different things that can affect both physical and mental, and weight isn't the single factor. And I think most people do know that, but we just kind of have to get into a habit of, just because someone doesn't look like an athlete doesn't mean they're unhealthy in any way.
No. And you can have someone who has very low levels of fat and stand them next to someone who would, in the NHS parameters, potentially be overweight.
Yeah.
And yet the person who's in the overweight category could well have better health than the person that has a very low body fat percentage. So,
well, an example would be, there's a UFC fighter called Ben Askren, and he's known as the man with a dad bod. If you was to look at him, you would never think he was a fighter. Never. Yet, he's one of the most dominant fighters in MMA. And actually people look at him positively, rather than they say, well, look at him. If he can become a UFC fighter, then so can I, because he's got a dad's bod. And he doesn't look like the typical muscles. He's just got a belly, and he's in perfect health. Maybe we're talking about brain damages, but that's nothing to do with his weight. That's more to do with his career. So yeah.
A few blows to the head.
Few blows to the head is nothing to do with his weight. So I think that's pretty much touching up on everything we wanted to, unless you got anything else you wanted to include. You're thinking hard there.
I am always thinking hard. No, I think we've covered it. I think, just in a summary kind of way. Yeah. Just like with regards to the shaming in general, shaming people is just a dickish move, right? It's just like you don't need to do it.
Yeah. Unless it's in banter form, but
but then if you're going to bring it up, you need to know your audience. You need to know who you're dealing with.
Yes.
And that's why a huge campaign that does, in a certain sense, shame those people that are in the overweight or obese category, that is not going to work, because it's very... You can't have... you don't have knowledge of that person. That person doesn't know who's written that campaign.
Yeah.
It's not the... doesn't have the support. So, just to summarise, in a sense whereby don't be a dick to people is probably...
So, campaigns, be more thoughtful and empathetic about what you're saying. Individuals, stop being a dick if you don't know them that well.
Yeah.
I think that's the advice we're going with both of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any questions, any thoughts? We'd love to hear it.
From you guys, not me. And thank you guys for listening. Will, where can they find you? On
Will
Instagram.
Hawkins Coaching on
Will
Instagram.
Hawkins Coaching. And me, Ghazi.92.
Thanks for listening to The Drill.
And we shall see you guys very soon.
Hi, I'm Will.
And I'm Ghazi.
And thanks for tuning in to The Big Drill. You can also find us on these platforms here. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. You can find him on Insta.
Ghazi.92.
And me, Will Hawkins Coaching. The links are in the description. And until the next time we drill deep, goodbye.
Bye.